Welcome to Not Going Quietly, the podcast where we inspire growth, beat down biases, and get into all sorts of good trouble with your host, Britt East. No topic is off limits as we explore ways to help everyone leap into life with a greater sense of clarity, passion, purpose, and joy. So get ready to join us for some courageous conversation because Not Going Quietly starts right now. Hey everyone, welcome to Not Going Quietly, the podcast for outraged optimists and heartbroken healers all over the world where we surface life-searing truths in the name of radical togetherness. I'm your host, Britt East, and I am here with a fantastic guest host. We're going to spend the whole hour with him. I can't wait for you to meet him, so let's bring him right in. With over 300 plus lives transformed and 3,000 pounds of body fat lost, Jarrod Lee is the CEO and founder of the Daring Academy, helping gay men overcome body shame and build the bodies and confidence of their dreams, no matter their experience, age, genetics, family background, or how many times they have failed in the past. In particular, he helps gay men demolish the beliefs that they aren't worthy of having the bodies they want, that they don't have the genetics, that they don't have enough time, quote unquote, that wanting to look good is, quote unquote, shallow, or that they need to go on extreme diets or work out for long hours to get in shape. By simplifying fitness and nutrition, members often share that fitness has become fun and healthy, eating enjoyable and sustainable for the first time, and that they didn't think they could look and feel positive changes in themselves so quickly. Having overcome his own share of pain, homophobia, racism, an emotionally turbulent childhood, heartbreak, binge eating, to appearing on DNA magazine, Queer Tea, Men's Health, come on, and more importantly, developing genuine self-love and confidence, his mission is helping gay men heal and live the lives they truly desire. Oh my God, I want some. Jarrod Lee, welcome to the show. It's so wonderful to have you. How the hell are you today?
Hey, thank you, Britt. Thank you for that warm introduction and doing great. I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation and have some fun together and share some value.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an honor to have you. And thinking about you coming on the show today, I was reminded that, at least for me as human beings, it just feels like everything spiritual begins with our bodies. In reading your bio, it seems like, maybe that might resonate with you. And I was wondering, how can we, especially, you specialize in working with gay men, how can we, gay men who have been hurt so deeply by so many in our lives, how can we start to create positive relationships with our bodies and actually learn to fall in love with ourselves?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question, Britt. So it's definitely it's so intertwined. The spirituality, the shame that we go through as gay men, the different traumas as any human being, right? But the first starting point I've noticed is allowing ourselves to have the opportunity to feel what it feels like, to allow ourselves to want what we want, allow ourselves to be okay with our desires. And also at the same time, Britt, I find all the challenges we've gone through to allow ourselves to see our pain, see our trauma, see the hardships we've gone through. The biggest thing I see can stop us from creating positive change in our lives is denying either or. So either we're denying our shame, we try to shove it away, put it in a box, pretend it didn't happen, which I did for many years of my life, because it's far easier, and especially when you don't have the tools. I don't have the tools or access or understanding. What else do you do, right? And I did that for many years. The other side is desires, so allowing ourselves to say, hey, what if it's possible you can feel good in your body? What if that's possible? And I know when I bring this up, oftentimes there's a lot of shame that can come up. But no, I'm not worthy of this. I can't have that. Who am I to want to look good? That's vain. It's selfish. All this stuff comes up. But my first question for any person I work with is, what have you allowed yourself to feel both? What happens then in that space?
That is so cool. I love it because I know I was thinking about my own journey when you were talking and thinking about self-righteous judgments I had around ideas of personal vanity, ableism, physical privilege, and feeling, being a gay man in society these days, at least in the U.S. where I live, is sometimes feels like a relentless battle against giving yourself permission to fall in love with life and to crave and to experience and explore what the universe craves from you. And so we sometimes it's like we want to look a certain way and we immediately follow that desire with a judgment. Sometimes we worry that if we get healthy and take charge of our lives, then what comes next? And so I love the way that it's like you're calling on us to be responsible not only for putting in the work, but also putting in the dreams, to actually visioning and seeing what could be. And it made me think about how we might learn. And here's what my question to you is, Jarrod, I guess, is like, how can we learn to then lose ourselves and surrender ourselves to those desires, to the natural flow of the universe, what it craves from us, and choose to trust ourselves?
Yeah, of course. So I do want to frame this whole conversation as well, Britt, in that everything I'm sharing, I'm still learning as I go. As much as I've helped guys, right? There's still a lot of growth and learning. Um, and also be very aware that I spent 4 years, especially in the beginning of my transformation and all this, from a massive place of shame. So that was a key driver. So it's not, I didn't have this journey of I was just surrender myself to this desire, allow myself to want this body, and that was all that happened. I went through a lot of hard times too. So just definitely want to be really open, transparent with that. Um, but I find we go in, it's every little inch, right? Just it doesn't, sometimes it can happen in a big moment. I've had guys I've worked with where they just have this big epiphany, go, wow, okay, what if I can create this body? And they just go all in and it's incredible. But I've also had guys who goes in little inches. They go, okay, I feel a lot of shame around my body right now. I feel like I can't want these things. A little inch forward of wanting it, surrendering to the moment, and then they go backwards and then go forwards again, and just inch by inch by inch, leading to that uh, towards where they want to go. Um, but what I find with the spirit, when you, especially when you circling back to what you started with, right, the spirituality in our bodies is so connected. Where if you just simply, if we simply asked ourselves, what does my body truly want in this moment, and really just listen to that, that often has all, a lot, if not all, of those answers. Um, and that can go into everything, right? It can go from food choices, like, does this really feel good for my body? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? It can come to, am I working out because I feel like I need to look like this fitness model or this Instagram guy? Or am I working out because this actually feels good? I want to work out. I'm feeling that the feeling flow of my body, and this feels good, especially afterwards, right? Asking those questions when we're listening in creates a big difference, and starts to steer us towards. And the reason why I say listen to our bodies is we all have different things. There's no one set path, right? But our bodies can give us so much of those answers.
Yeah, I think we've actually almost skipped a step, because when you were talking, I was starting to think like, wow, how in the heck are we going to listen to our bodies if we're busy slapping on band-aids on our problems, if we're numbing out, if we're overindulging in alcohol or food or illicit drugs or whatever, all the myriad ways that we, especially in the gay male community, tend to opt out of life, to opt into convenience, and instead of deal with the root causes of actually what's harming us or hurting us, or even just avoiding feelings altogether. And so it's like, in order for us to begin to listen to, like, so for instance, I know I was a yoga teacher for a long time, and that's when I first felt the call that you describe, in terms of like I would like freestyle yoga in my own personal practice because I somehow started to hear the call of what my body truly wanted, and it felt good to heed that call. And that was its own muscle, quote unquote, over like a spiritual muscle. Over time I learned to build and to cultivate that sense of desire. But for so many of our listeners, they're probably, it's like, first my body wants to get sober a little bit, or first I need to stop binge eating. And so it's like, how do you, when you have, I mean, I've never been a trainer or worked with people in the way that you do, but when you assess clients, it's like, how do you start to help them parse through that and start to hear that call of what their body is before they heed it?
So there's a couple of pathways to this, Britt, but I don't particularly. This is a personal thing. I don't like this one, but oftentimes the majority of us as humans requires this. So it's really pain. So digging into like painting the vision, right? So sometimes it's most of us find it easier, or we're more willing to avoid and run away from something than to go towards our desires. And it's evolutionary, right? Survival mechanism, all of that. But my question then, let's say if you are struggling, I picture someone with, I've actually come on board to the program recently. He's put on a bit of weight through COVID years. So since COVID, he hasn't been able to reverse it. And instead of me saying, hey, what is it going to feel like for you to lose the weight and get back healthy again? It's too far, right? It's too far away for him to picture. He's so stuck in, I can't do this. This is too hard. So I actually dig in with him and go, okay, so we've put on 30 pounds in the last 2-3 years' time. And you've been struggling with your body, but struggling with mentally too, with there's a few dating situations, different parts. We've been using food or alcohol to numb away the pain. We understand that. What's going to happen if another 2-3 years goes by? And I really invite people to sink into that, to really look at the reality of things of, okay, if I continue going the way I'm going, I put on 30 pounds the last 2-3 years, my mental health has decreased, I could be going down a really bad path. And then being really honest and serious, no bullshit, right? Just go, hey, this is what is going on. I've got to face the reality. If you continue down this path, this is what's going to happen. So no longer is it about, hey, I want to look a certain way. It's just going, okay, I don't want to really have all these health issues. I don't want to go on down this path. My mental health struggling. I need to do something. And it's very, very painful, Brett, when I take people there. And I find it can be uncomfortable for both of us. But that is what is required oftentimes. So boom, okay, let's make a change. And this guy, by the way, he's all in now. He's taking action. He's making changes. But it required that very, very difficult conversation of pain for that bounce off.
I can see how that'd be a huge differentiator between your services and maybe a traditional like physical fitness trainer at a gym, which is purely more about reps and sets and what have you. And I mean, I just think that's amazing. I've shared a lot on this show about my background on the 12 steps, and what you were saying just reminded me so deeply about that. We first have to get real. Until we get real, we can build nothing else. And so we were just building on quicksand. And so I love if somebody wants to get a certain body type, that's awesome. And if that's body type is conventionally attractive based on cultural norms of today, who cares? I'm going to cheer them on anyway. That's really cool. I'm not going to judge them in any way. But if it's built on quicksand, I might think to myself, how much of this is really going to last? And so I really like how you're saying it's like, okay, first we have to get to the foundation of the house. We have to pour that foundation before we frame the house and put it in the windows. Otherwise, it's going to topple over.
And we'll go a bit further on this, right, Bert? So when we start to go to the foundations, we start to figure out, okay, what are those core root things that's going on. And oftentimes what I find, right, so the reason why we maybe reach out for the food, for the alcohol, those things, is there's a feeling of not being good enough. I don't deserve this. Maybe there's trauma, shames from past relationships. All of those things, they're gonna come up. And I don't think I've worked with. I'm sure you have too, but right. So all backgrounds doesn't matter. Um, 7, 8 figure CEOs, doctors, lawyers, waiters. We all have all these things that we all have to, as human beings, look at. Because if we don't, that's not going to disappear. That's still going to be there, and we all need to face it. And that's the tough work that all comes up throughout the process.
Yeah, and if you live in the US at any rate, society is engineered against you as a gay man. It's designed to keep you separate and alone. That is how it has explicitly been created. So at the very least, we have to reckon with those social pressures and our response to them. And then also look at our response to love, whether it's loving our body or loving other people's. And that becomes, like you're saying, the spiritual foundation upon which we can build this new house. So it almost sounds like, to me, what you're saying is you're talking about healing hearts and rewiring minds.
Yes, absolutely. Healing hearts, rewiring minds. That's the core crux of this whole thing.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So once we, get people in the driver's seat, recognizing what they have been living with for so long, what they have been enduring, coping with, maybe even getting real and honest about their coping mechanisms, and at least cultivating awareness of that. How do you start to help people nurture a sense of self-mastery and discipline?
There's so many different angles, and what I've noticed, different angles work differently for different people. Some people simply sometimes just having accountability. So some people literally, they just miss, they don't know what they're doing. And I spent 4 years doing the wrong things, simply just having, hey, here's the workout, do these things, make these changes in eating habits, and they just go ahead and do it, and they go, wow, I feel so much better already, incredible. And that's actually all they need. So sometimes it's external accountability to start, then build that into the internal minds. And we have a community, right, of other gay men who are all on the same journey. So having that support, so you're not doing it alone by yourself, that can sometimes be enough. For some others, though, we've got to go deeper, go a bit more. One part is we start to really question. We first building awareness on all those beliefs. What are those root cause beliefs that's underneath the surface of it all? For example, if someone, let's say, I'm going to give my own example. So I grew up seeing my parents fight a lot, whether it was verbal, emotional violence, physical. There was a lot of beautiful parts of my childhood, but there were some very challenging parts which I shoved away. But from that, along with being shamed for my sexuality at school, being rejected on constantly as a late teen, early 20s on dating apps and online dating and all that situation, I was building this big belief, right, that I am unattractive, I'm unlovable, healthy relationships are not possible, I can't get into incredible shape. I'm doomed to feel bad about my body. This is just the way things are. And what I do with each person I work with is help them shine a light. We start to shine a light on all these things. And then we have to start to deconstruct this. To say, okay, is this really true? Is it really true that love is not possible for you? Is it really true that your genetics absolutely suck and you just can't lose weight? Is this true? And once we do it enough times, they start to go, oh, maybe it's not true. We create an opening. And as soon as we have an opening, I start to imprint things, whether it's getting them to start to, even just for 5-10 minutes a day, visualize the possibility of them, the opposite. Maybe they're healthy, they're fit in their bodies, they love their bodies. What does that look and feel like? Um, and it can be very uncomfortable, by the way, right? When they first do it, they go, "Well, this feels really weird and unfamiliar. That doesn't seem right. This is not my territory." But that's good. I say, awesome. Let's keep going. This is what you need, because that unfamiliarity is what is where your dream life, where you want to go. Let's get you there. And just every single time we just keep on making that shift, day by day, week by week, a couple months later, most of the guys I work with, they start to say, "Oh wow, actually working out is pretty easy. Eating healthy is easy. I love how I look. I love how I feel." Um, Jarrod, I really didn't believe you in the beginning. I thought you were openly optimistic. You don't know my situation, right? You don't know my body. You don't know my history. You don't know how many times I've started and failed. But here I am. Here we are. And it takes that. The hardest part about this, Britt, right, is that discomfort, unfamiliarity, because we don't do things. I had so much help along the way. I still have a lot of help. Um, it's easier to stay comfortable with as painful as it can be. It's more familiar, and as humans, we like familiarity. So it's helping to make those shifts.
Yeah. It almost sounds like you're stoking people's appetite for life. You've gotten some clients, maybe some prospective clients who come to you, and maybe they don't language it this way, but they're deep down what they're meant to be thinking is, I've just lost my taste for life. I've woken up and I found myself in this place where I'm isolating, I'm distrustful, I'm cynical, I'm tired of receiving a volume of rejection that nobody but gay men can even begin to imagine. Let's face it. Nobody is more of an expert on rejection than gay men. Nobody. I don't care who else you are. I mean, it's just that is the story of being a gay man in most cultures. And so they're tired. They're working multiple jobs. They're taking care of parents. They're taking care of kids, all the drags on their delight. And then here you come, Mr. Positive, optimistic, like, I'm going to stoke the fires. I'm going to help you find the flavors in life and recover the feeling of joy. And I can't help but wonder what that must feel like to you. How do you feel when you see that transformation happen in your clients?
I'm very sensitive, Brent. So I feel things very deeply, and I cry very easily. Whether it's the first conversation where they're sharing their pains and struggles, I empathize with that, and I go, "Wow!" Like I feel very emotional, and for them to trust me enough to share that already, wow! And then later on, for them to see that transformation, it's just there's nothing like it, and I guess that's what keeps me going so much. Is there's one thing for me changing my life, changing my body, and um, so many circumstances, my relationships, and all that. But then to be able to use the pain I've gone through and then my lessons, and then see someone else shine, it's just it's powerful.
Well, and it's not just random people. You're talking about a segment of society, gay men, who have been purposely marginalized. Many have been disconnected from their families. Many have been forced to live on the outskirts of society, depending on when and where they grew up, when and where they live. So you're talking about a segment of society that could really use some help and love and care and concern. And so the work you're doing is so sacred and tender. And so I can only imagine what it's like to see the arc of these journeys. But my question to you then is, what is it like for them to see it? Once you see it, you experience this light, you're used to this. You've now led all these, millions of clients through this, and you delight in the journey. It hits you deeper and deeper, as you said. But for them, it's the first time they've experienced, the first time they've seen it. They knew it wasn't true. They knew you were full of shit. They knew it was impossible. It would never work for them. And then all of a sudden, something happens, and one day they feel a little lighter. One day they walk by a mirror and they look a little different, and it catches them off guard and unawares. what is how do you hold the proverbial mirror up to them so they can delight in their journey? And how do what is it like for your clients to experience this?
Yeah. So I would say a good majority is um, the sense of, wow, I didn't believe this was possible. Um, I think the biggest change root here is once they see the physical changes, there's a visible change. So much of the work is that's only 20%, right? So much of it is underneath it. But then there's a sense of, wow, if I can do this and I spend my whole life thinking this is not possible, what else can I do? We had people where they become personal trainers, they become coaches themselves, they pursue new businesses, and it's just this new sense of confidence. Um, and I see body transformation. That's just one aspect, right? When you achieve something you never thought possible, when you've broken one box, they go, okay, if I've done this, maybe all these things aren't true either. And what I usually do, right? So they see that, they feel that, they see that. I shine a light. I go, okay, exactly like you say. Here's a mirror. You were here, now you're here. Let's celebrate you. Let's like own this. Let's get you to taste and feel this. Um, and then we start to shine a light on everything else too.
It's a catharsis. I mean, people, I'm sure, however they express it, however it plays out in their emotional selves, and their emotional body, on some level, it's cathartic. It has to be cathartic to systematically break down the self-limiting beliefs that have held them hostage, whether imposed on them by society, friends, family, themselves, whomever, and to see those walls crumble, and then to be left with a green field of opportunity, which can be scary, can be daunting, can be overwhelming, can be thrilling, can be inspirational, funny. And I've witnessed this in all sorts of different spheres of life, these catharses, and experienced it myself, of course, like you described in your life, and like probably all of us have felt. Um, and I think it's like you said, what unites our um, our vision of our bodies with our vision of our lives. Meaning, if we hold one aspect of ourselves negatively, that's going to impact the system of the rest of our lives and our bodies. And to tear that down must be really special. And then to watch what flowers in its place, like you were saying, and to show that mirror, and to be the other thing is, it's not happening in isolation. You're joining them in the process. So you are joining in the process of breaking down the barriers, but then you're also joining them on the other side. And so they experience an emotional relational continuity, a relationship. And for gay men, that is profound, because we have been relationship starved. We live in an epidemic of loneliness. And here you are guiding them on the path, and you're on the other side as well. And that just must be so special to witness. I guess my question to you is, so many of us and gay men have had traumatic experiences around physical fitness. We were bullied by teammates in sports, or not allowed to play sports. We were bullied by coaches, teachers, whomever, scared to engage with the physical aspect of life. And growing up, horseplay, roughhousing, the things that, excuse me, the things that young people engage in to bond and have fun and delight in their bodies, even platonically. And so we bring all this baggage with us when we come to you, Jarrod, or we sign up for the gym, or whatever thing we do. We bring all this baggage with us, this trauma with us. Jarrod, how do you reckon with that? How do you create a safe space for them to like you were saying earlier, like, I hear you, I honor you, this has been your story, and now we're going to do something different, and it's possible even for you. How do you bring all that together?
Yeah, I feel that's a part, right? So many of us have gone to the gym by ourselves, and it's intimidating. You see big guys lifting the weights, and it kind of reminds you probably of every single thing. Well, I remember the first 2 3 years when I stepped inside the gym, I would go in for a few sessions, leave, and go in and leave. Um, because there's this voice saying, Jarrod, you don't belong here. This is not for you. And when you're doing things alone, if you sign up to a gym alone, this is for everyone already, right? Statistically, 85% plus people sign up for a gym and never show up again after the first month. And then add on top of that being a gay man who has been shamed for body, how we look, how we feel, for sports, not being masculine enough, all these things, they all combine. Um, Number one is giving the fact that they have allowed themselves to seek out help, that already breaks so many shells because they're not alone anymore. They're not doing this thing where they have to conquer everything alone. Um, and the space that we create, right? So let's say someone jumps on in, um, they're suddenly seeing all these other gay men who have all felt like him and who have all done it already, and they're all cheering him on. You go, oh, okay, maybe that create that safety, and because the community is of gay men, that understanding is there. So that's that safety space first and foremost. That we have a very strict zero judgment zone. Everything can be shared. The conversations. One moment we have a group coaching conversation and someone's crying their eyes out. The next moment we're laughing together. There's nothing that's not okay. So that safety space is so crucial. And then secondly, Britt, is just when you go inside a gym, when you have all that going on, and you don't know what you're doing, you're just kind of winging it, that creates all those fears. But this is where just the plan, having know exactly what they need to do for the workouts, exercises, technique, the nutrition, and knowing that they have the support and guidance there, all of that combined um, decreases a lot of that stress and anxiety. It doesn't mean that it's gone. They're still going to step inside the gym for the first time or after a long time. They're still going to be there, but we cushion it. So then, first time, second time, third time, usually by the fourth, fifth time, majority, not all, but majority go, oh, okay, this is actually not nearly as bad as I thought.
That's so cool. And like you said, you don't have to do it alone anymore. That's so profound. I mean, if anybody who's listening who is a gay man or who has loved gay men, that's one. I mean, you can easily imagine what a profound statement that is, to invite us into community, because that's what we're starved for purposely. Like I always on the show bring things back to the system of straight supremacy, which tries to keep us separate and alone. You are resisting that through your business, through the community that you're building, and you're inviting gay men into relationship with one another so that they can nurture each other. Like I said earlier, nobody's known more rejection than a gay man, and because of that, nobody's more cynical than a gay man. The worst, the toughest customer prospects because they've seen it all. They've finally honed antenna to bullshit detectors. So bringing them into a community where we can be real and authentic, have a sacred space that we can be ourselves, because 90% of the day we're self-censoring. We're required to, if we want to hold down a job, we can't be all ourselves. We can't tell people what we did over the weekend in many cases, or what we did over the night at work. It's not safe, depending on what you do and where you live and all that. So when you invite people into this community where they can be themselves, it lowers their defense mechanisms. It lowers those walls, those judgments, and then makes them more open to, we're going back to where we started, to learn to listen to those voices in their bodies of desire. Not just sexual desire, we're tuned into that, but the desire in the moment, the healthy impulses in the moment. What do I want to experience in this moment? That's sublingual, it's below language. It's like, what does my body crave? Well, like you said, whether it's food or movement or whatever style or motion or rest or whatever it is, that to me is such a huge victory and such a subversion of this system that is trying to grind us down, and such beautiful work. And so I guess I'm envisioning that when people go through your program, Jarrod, they come out with a newfound sense of empowerment, because that's naturally what flowers. And so my question to you is, what does it mean to be an empowered gay man?
What I found, Britt, and this is actually the crux of how the Daring Academy was formed, um, was me really embracing my sexuality, coming out fully 100%, and really owning myself. Um, I started to see this. I saw this. It's almost, it may sound a bit cheesy, but it's almost this mission that came to me rather than me creating it. Where rather, I had, well, there was this whole spiritual awakening that happened to me in 2020 where um, I was in this, there's a lot of healing going on in space where a lot of my past traumas, everything came up. And one of the big things was this message of me actually, this is not for me. This is to be shared and to be multiplied. And the way I see it, right, is instead of, say, fighting the system, so going, hey, let's destruct that, let's build us up. Let's make us love ourselves so much and just stand in so much of our power that the more of us that do that, it's incredible. So when we say empowered, being an empowered gay man, quite a few of our guys, by the way, they, not from me saying anything, but literally just them transforming. I remember one guy, he came out publicly on LinkedIn. There were some family stresses, right? So parents that just didn't like that. There's a few things there. But that's where empowerment is, where he was like, actually, you know what? I'm going to take a stand for myself. I'm no longer going to hold back myself just to please my parents, just to please all these things. What he found was good chunks, 60, 70, 80% of people were, maybe 80% plus, were very positive in response. Because he did that, so many other people started coming out, just go, hey, you know what? This is me. I'm no longer holding back too. And that just, there was that domino effect, and that's really powerful. But this is where empowerment is no longer, I see myself more as a catalyst, right? I don't say this is, I've helped them with a system that helps them get there, but ultimately each individual finds their own voice to say, this is who I am. And that empowerment is owning that and going, this is who I am. This is my truth. These are my thoughts. These are my feelings. These are my opinions, and take it or leave it.
I love it. It's like, to a certain extent, seen through a certain lens, joy is the work. Play is the work. And so much of what we're talking about is removing the layers that have accumulated over the years, whether through stress or trauma or strain or heartache or heartbreak or societal issues, all that kind of stuff, to get who we always were anyway. Left to our own devices, who we were born to be, one might say, our fate, our dharma, our destiny, because we have then whittled away all of the noise. It's like earlier you were talking and I was thinking, it's like our bodies are an antenna. And so we're talking about separating the signal from the noise. And the signal is the divine guidance. And that's what resonates in our bodies in the moment. those are the beautiful impulses that lead us to what the universe craves from us and what we crave from it in that virtuous cycle. The noise is all the rest of the crap, all of the rest of the stuff that is foisted upon us. And so, like, when you're talking about empowerment, I was left with this, or I was experiencing this sense of joy when you were talking about it, because you exude so much joy. Even, we're just on a podcast separated by, zillions of miles, and who knows how far. And but I could still, you were just radiating so much joy, and I started to think, well, that's actually the point, especially for queer people, especially for gay men. It's like, when the world is out to drain us of joy, then experiencing, cultivating joy is an act of political resistance. And then sharing that with the world is truly subversive and maybe even divine. And then, like, you talked about that spiritual awakening you had in 2020. That's what got me thinking, like, here you are radiating out the joy that you've created in your own life and giving gay men structure that they can utilize to leverage their own joy. And how beautiful that is. So I guess it's almost like I was saying, it's like a sculptor that's, sculptors always say they peel away the layers, they remove the clay that isn't the sculpture itself. They signal from the noise again. And so my question to you, Jarrod, is like, okay, how do we begin doing that in our personal lives? Like, you give people a point of entry through physical fitness. It's like physical fitness is almost the vehicle for this spiritual transformation. Especially if you believe the body and the spirit are intrinsically linked. So, how do we start to carve this? I'm just thinking out loud here. It's like, how do we start to carve away, separate the signal from the noise, remove the parts of the sculpture that are not us? How do we start to do that in our personal lives?
Yeah, I've got some fast. The spiritual side, right? I actually, um, so in our program, we have 10 weeks, which is focused first, that physical standpoint, the fitness, the nutrition, the mindset too, of, okay, making this physical transformation. But then really, when we have an advanced community as well, where we go deeper. So this meditation is a key thing, because what meditation does, um, whether you want to call it, some people hear the word meditation, they don't like it, right? But all meditation, some people love it, I love it, but all meditation is just finding that space where we step in, what we shared earlier, right? That awareness, that intuitive knowing, that childlike self that's we came into this earth with, this that dharma that's already there. We step into the awareness and we start to see those thoughts, those patterns clearly. We've got a different perspective, vantage point. Um, and meditation, there's so many different forms. There's TM, there's breath, there's multiple disciplines. But that's the first gateway, is being able to distance ourselves from our thoughts and emotions. So we're not, that's all the stuff we've got to shed, right? We can't shed it if we're stuck in it. If we believe the thought that I am unworthy, being gay is wrong, if that's in our body and we're so stuck there, the thoughts, emotions, we can't separate it, we can't move. But once we create a separation, we go, oh, maybe that's a lie. Maybe that's what they can shed. We shed that. So that's number one. Number two would be nature, just being out into nature, woods, ocean, sea, into the park, even barefoot on the ground, on the sand, just being one with nature. Nature can teach us so much that humans cannot, because nature's just, it's there. It's the spiritual, it's untarnished, it's there. We can connect so quickly. Those are really quick access points. And then thirdly, personal life, Britt, what I found, this is something that's almost, it's inevitable, which is surrounding yourself with the right people. By the right people, I just mean, where do you want to go in your life? What lights, what resonates with you? What makes you want to surround yourself with more and more of those people? Because if you're still staying stuck in the same environment, if you were, say, with family or people that shame you, and you're there day to day, and that's what you're spending your environment in, it's going to be very hard for you to break out and start to believe that you are worth far more than you've ever believed. So finding those people, which can be challenging, right, Brett? Because we talk about this, the loneliness, the seeking out help. I stayed away from that for so many years because I saw that as a weakness. Like, I can't reach out for help. I can't do that. But surrounding yourselves with the right people, that can help dramatically, because you start to have, if I didn't grow up with gay role models of that I could look up to, emulate, and that in itself is very challenging. But if you can find those people and surround yourself with that, then wow, it makes the process so much more. It's still going to be hard work, but it's going to be so much easier.
And now you are those people that you didn't
Oh,
have.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's the mission here, is to be that person and allow just spread that, so there's more and more of us that's just there.
There's a ancient text associated with yoga written, I don't know, we'll say 10,000 years ago. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, by a person we call Patanjali today. Maybe he didn't exist, but he said, it's the Yoga Sutras, the very first sutra, the truths of yoga. He said, Yoga Chitta Nirodha. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind, the stilling of the pond. And that's exactly what you described. It made me think of that. And then I was thinking about the ancient caves of Lascaux in France, the very first paintings that we have found that human beings have left us in the Ice Age. What were they painting? Not portraits. They weren't selfies. They were painting animals. Because maybe something they saw majestic in them, that in the animals, that they longed for, to connect with, in that sublingual space that you suggested. So yeah, I resonated with everything that you were saying, and I think the key takeaway is there are points of entry. It doesn't matter what point of entry you choose, to a certain degree, if it's life affirming and healthy and all that. It just matters that you choose one. And that you go deeply and you choose it every day for a certain period of time. You make a commitment. You cultivate that discipline. You build a muscle of discipline. You build a muscle of intentionality, and you make a commitment, and that you pick one. But there's all sorts of points of entry. It's not there's a certain mysticism to being alive. But when it comes to the process of transformation and learning how to harness and channel our energy, that is as much about choice as anything, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that the thing here, bro, with that choice is, it never stops. There's no myself, every single person I've worked with, my coaches, mentors, every single person. It's not like you make a choice, you heal, and then it's done. It's every single day. It's a choice that you get to make, every moment. And that's the beautiful part, is that as challenging as you may have gone through from the past, you get to make a choice today to, even just a 1% shift completely changes the trajectory of where you go.
Jarrod, what is sacred in your life?
There's two things. One is my marriage relationship with my partner, my husband, lover, Tommy. He's been massive and part of this journey of reflecting back and helping me love myself in a different way. And there's that space there that it's almost untouchable. It's very special. It's very special. The other side part is there's that part of myself, that untouchable part, where spiritually, whether it's through meditation or in the quietness, beyond all the stuff, right? So running the Daring Academy, there's a DNA magazine, or powerlifting, all those, there's a surface level, gold medals, all that stuff. That's underneath it all. When I'm in that quiet space, it's almost, there's a part of me that is untouchable. Nothing on the outside, no losses on the outside, no wins, losses, comments, opinions. Can give or can take this away, and it's here, it's so present. And that's probably the biggest force of presence and driving force, where gives me the courage to do so much in life, to go face those fears and do those things, because there's safety there. And I'm still growing that, Britt. There's still moments, by the way, where I fall away, step away from that, and like the fears, and does it happen? But every morning when I meditate, when I'm in that space, and throughout the day, those presence, that's sacred. And I see that as connection to source, really, to myself, to the world, metaphysics, universe, God, however you call it, and then to everybody else. But that's that first connection with me that allows me to connect so deeply. Right now, but having this conversation just, I feel very inspired, Brett. Just whether it's clients willing to do the work, whether it's me growing these conversations, people who are willing to heal. I really see the more of us. Obviously, I serve primarily gay men, but just the whole world, every single human being, we just heal our own hearts. And there's growing, there's more and more of us, but there's like this massive exponential growth that's happening. There's all this other stuff that's happening, but there's the love, and that's growing exponentially. Both can happen all at the same time. There's going darker and brighter. There's both happening, and that gives me a lot of hope. And that these conversations and this work is becoming more and more common. Definitely can be a lot more, but it's growing, and that's inspiring for me. Definitely, if anything outside of me with Tommy, but space with myself. So whether it's, I do some crazy things, but so whether it's ice baths, ice showers, meditation, being alone in nature, those things it's just presence, being so present in the moment. And when I'm so present myself, everything else falls away. So that's probably the refuge which access any moment.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I'm going to let you in on a little secret, just between you and me. I get contacted a lot by various fitness coaches to come on the podcast and talk, and I've always said no. And it wasn't until I met you that I felt inspired to do an episode like this. I've always felt like it's problematic. There's, pretty privilege and ableism, and it's like, for all the things in the world. But there's something so special about you, and it's not only the joy that you radiate, and the shimmering energy that just flows from you, even through all these miles across the screen, but it's the way that you intentionally unite all these aspects of mind, body, and spirit into your program, that is truly restorative and not merely about appearance. That it's truly about health and wellness on a deep spiritual plane that inspired me to have this conversation, and to get to know you better. And it's just been an absolute delight to talk with you today. I'm so thrilled that you wanted to be a part of this podcast and be featured as a guest, and I'm so thrilled to get to know you better. I highly encourage everybody who's watching this or listening to this to check you out on your socials, and of course we will put all your socials in our show notes to make it easy on everybody. You do such a fantastic job. You're doing really beautiful work for a community who deserves it as gay men. And I'm just so thrilled to be part of the community with you. So thank you for coming on our show today.
Thank you, Britt. I don't know if you can tell. Thank you. I feel very seen and heard. Thank you for holding this space. But I'm very sensitive. There's tears coming out of my eyes right now. Thank you for holding this space, Britt. Thank you. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for inviting me on. I feel very honored and privileged to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, you're doing great work. Keep it up. And I hope that I would love for everybody to get a chance to work with you. So hopefully people will reach out and contact you to learn more, and we'll give them all sorts of ways to do that. So thanks again, Jarrod. It's just been wonderful to get to know you. I'm so thrilled, and I'll be cheering you on the whole way in your journey. And please come back on the show, and so we can continue this conversation. These talks feel like they fly by in the blink of an eye, and I'm just like, oh, I was just getting started. I wanted to ask him all this other stuff, and the time is already up. But I'm really hopeful we can have you back. But listeners, dear listeners, you have made it through another hour of Not Going Quietly. We so treasure your participation in the show, for being our fans, our friends, our audience, for watching us on YouTube and listening to us on all our various podcast platforms, engaging with us on social media. We would not be here without you. We would not be having these wonderful conversations. I wouldn't get the chance to meet like amazing people like Jarrod were it not for your support. So thank you for all that you do. And until next time, goodbye. Thank you. Take care. You've been listening to Not Going Quietly with your host, Britt East. Thanks so much for joining us on this wild ride as we explore ways to help everyone leap into life with a greater sense of clarity, passion, purpose, and joy. Check out our show notes for links, additional information, and episodes located on your favorite podcast platform.